February 15, 1943, early morning. Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The air on the ground feels heavier than the sky ever did. Diesel fumes mix with the scent of scorched rubber and hot metal as ground crews swarm around the returning Corsairs of VMF 124. The fighters taxi in, engines sputtering down from the deafening roar that carried them through yesterday's battle. Lieutenant Harriman rolls to a halt near a line of revetments carved out of crushed coral. He opens the canopy, letting the humid island air surge inside. It is hot, damp, alive. He can taste salt on his lips. A mechanic climbs onto the wing, his eyes widening as he runs a hand across the bullet puncture near the root. "You brought her back in one piece," the man mutters. "Mostly." Harriman steps down, boots hitting the ground with a dull thud. His legs shake just slightly, the leftover adrenaline, the echo of violence. But the atmosphere around the squadron is electric. Pilots gather near the revetment line, talking in hushed but excited tones. The numbers from yesterday begin circulating, half whispers turning into certain truth. 12 Zeros destroyed. No Corsairs lost. The island rumor mill works faster than any radio. By noon, every Marine, CB, and Navy rating on Guadalcanal has heard that the new fighter, the odd one, the one nobody trusted, just chewed through veteran Japanese pilots and came back hungry for more. But the real shock is happening hundreds of miles away. Rabaul Air Base, New Britain. Same day, early afternoon. The air plumes with black exhaust as Captain Tanaka Hideshio's remaining pilots limp home. 4 aircraft land. Only 4. Japanese ground crews rush toward the battered Zeros, expecting engine trouble or fuel starvation. What they find instead is far worse. Bullet scars across wings, fuselages shredded, pilots pale and shaken. One of Tanaka's wingmen climbs out of his cockpit and collapses to his knees, gripping the dirt in trembling hands. "How many?" the squadron operations officer demands. The young pilot looks up, eyes hollow. "Too many. They move like demons." "What aircraft?" "Blue, dark blue, gull wings, fast, faster than anything." Another pilot steps forward, still gasping. "It dives like a falling star. You cannot outrun it. You cannot outclimb it." The operations officer frowns. The new American fighter? Silence. A mechanic stands nearby, arms folded, listening. He mutters under his breath, "The bent-winged plane." The officer shakes his head. Intelligence had intercepted reports about a strange American prototype, but dismissed them as exaggeration, propaganda, another heavy, clumsy aircraft that the Zero could outmaneuver at will. But the men standing in front of him are not exaggerating. They are terrified. One whispers, "It hunted us." Rabaul's command staff convenes an emergency meeting. Charts are laid out, performance data recalculated, intercepted transmissions re-examined. For the first time in the war, Japanese analysts see performance curves rising above the Zero's once untouchable lines. Speed, Corsair wins. Dive, Corsair wins by a wide margin. Climb, Corsair wins above mid-altitudes. Survivability, Corsair wins decisively. Firepower, not even a comparison. Only turn radius belongs to the Zero, and even that advantage now seems fragile, something that only matters if the Corsair pilot willingly enters a turning fight. And yesterday proved they do not. A Japanese intelligence officer, Commander Kubo Senji, speaks the thought no one wants to admit. If the Americans master this aircraft, they will take the sky. Silence grips the room. Back on Guadalcanal, Harriman sits on an overturned supply crate with a canteen in his hands. Around him, VMF 124 debriefs the engagement, mapping out every turn, every dive, every kill. Not with bravado, not with boasting, with realization. Captain Ellery leans over a crude coral-dusted table and taps a pencil against a diagram of the fight. "It's not that the Corsair is better, it's that it fights differently," he says slowly. "We don't play by Zero rules anymore." Harriman nods. The American mindset, preserve energy, maintain altitude, control the engagement, is merging perfectly with the Corsair's design. The aircraft's weaknesses are real, but its strengths outweigh them in a way no one anticipated on the ground. Certainly not the Japanese, who believed maneuverability alone was enough to win any fight. A young pilot, Second Lieutenant Reeves, asks quietly, "They'll come back stronger, right?" "Oh, absolutely," Ellery answers. "They'll adapt. They'll test us again." Harriman takes a slow drink of water, gaze drifting toward the shimmering horizon. "And when they do," he says, "we'll show them yesterday wasn't luck." Because something has shifted in the Pacific, not just in the air, but in the balance of fear. The Corsair is no longer mocked. It is whispered about, calculated against, feared. And the sky, once dominated by the elegant dance of the Zero, now trembles beneath the thunder of bent wings. February 20th, 1943, Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The dense tropical air vibrates beneath the rising heat as a dozen blue-gray Corsairs line up along the runway. Their engines idle at a low rumble, each one sounding like a chained creature waiting to be turned loose. Ground crews step back, helmets pressed against the thunder. Inside the cockpit of his freshly repaired fighter, Lieutenant Harriman tightens his harness. Today is not routine patrol duty. Today is a deliberate test, a trial by fire to determine whether VMF 124 can turn a promising debut into sustainable dominance. Yesterday's victory shattered Japanese confidence, but single victories do not win air wars. Mastery does. And the Corsair is still a beast that demands respect. Taxiing beside him, Captain Ellery gives a thumbs up, his silhouette framed by the rising sun. Harriman returns the gesture. Their squadron has spent the last 5 days reworking tactics, refining energy management, and practicing vertical fighting maneuvers, new strategies crafted specifically for this strange aircraft that refuses to fight like any other. Even the flight instructors are learning. As the formation lifts off, wheels folding into the gull mootings, Harriman feels the familiar surge of torque pulling the aircraft left. He counters with ease. 5 days ago, that torque had scared half the squadron. Today, it is simply part of the Corsair's personality. They climb toward 18,000 feet, the sky turning from pale blue into a deeper, colder shade. The air thins, the engine drinks greedily. Below, the Solomon Islands stretch across the Pacific like dark jewels set into shifting turquoise. Clouds drift lazily between the peaks, hiding villages, rivers, and the scars of battle. Then a voice crackles through the radio. "Red lead, this is Falcon Control. Reports just in. Multiple enemy contacts inbound from the northwest. Estimate 9 to 10 aircraft." Harriman banks the formation into a slow, steady turn. Ellery's voice follows. "Here we go again." But Harriman senses something different in the squadron today. No tension, no hesitation. The Corsair has stopped being a mystery. It is becoming an extension of their instincts. They level off at 19,000 feet, sun glinting off their canopies. The Japanese pilots climbing from bases far to the north will appear any moment now. And then, dots. Small specks shimmering against the horizon, 10 of them in a loose V formation, the enemy. But these are not the reckless and confident aviators who dove into battle last week. Their formation is tighter, their climb is cautious, their approach is measured. They have learned, and that makes them dangerous. Harriman steadies himself. "Red flight, keep altitude. Blue flight, break wide. We'll force them vertical." Captain Ellery acknowledges. "Copy. Let's see if they studied the right lessons." The two groups separate, creating a layered trap, contrails carving pale streaks into the morning sky. The Japanese formation reacts, splitting into 2 groups of 5. Their leader's voice crackles across his own radio net. "Stay together, do not chase, let them waste energy." A sound strategy against any American fighter, except this one. Harriman rolls the Corsair onto its back and begins a controlled dive. The R-2800 growls, the wind hammers the canopy, the altimeter unwinds, the gull wings cut through the air like blades. The Japanese attempt to break formation. Too late. Harriman's first pass slices through them with terrifying momentum. No turning, no hesitation, just raw speed. He fires a short burst, forcing 2 Zeros to scatter. Blue flight arrives from the flank, angling up sharply. The Japanese snap roll to avoid being trapped,
but the Corsairs adjust instantly, exploiting the vertical timeline they've practiced relentlessly. The sky becomes a three-layered engagement: high altitude, red flight diving; mid-level, Japanese formation breaking apart; low-level, blue flight rising to meet them. A Zero pulls into a steep climb, trying to shake a Corsair. Harriman drops behind it almost effortlessly. The contrast is stark. The Zero straining, wobbling at the edge of its performance envelope. The Corsair still rising confidently, engine roaring like a storm. He fires. The Zero tumbles downward in pieces.